artist, short session.
This is the work of Ileana Doble Hernandez, who received her MFA in Photography and Related Media from RIT's College of Art and Design. She uses photographs, video, and installation to express her experience as an immigrant in American culture, addressing issues such as gun violence and political discourse, encouraging others to ask questions, understand other points of view, and to act. Ileana joins us on this episode of The Short Sesh. Ileana, thanks for coming on The Short Sesh.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here talking to you.
You received your MFA from RIT's Photography and Related Media program, and you did some work at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, but you also have degrees in e-commerce and electronic engineering from the Monterey Institute of Higher Education in Mexico. So how did you end up in the US studying art and photography in grad school?
That's a very long story. We moved to the United States because of my husband's job. The company he was working for relocated him to the United States. Since I was in Mexico back in 2010, I started learning about photography, and I fell in love with image making, with what an image can represent, the power of what one photograph can have. I applied to Mazar. I went for a postbac. After that, I realized that I did want to have a career in the arts. And since I didn't have a bachelor in arts, I wanted to go to a master's program, which was highly academic, where I was able to make work, but also talk about work, learn to do research, learn to support ideas with work. RIT was definitely my long shot. And it was everything that I expected and more.
Well, you certainly didn't waste any time when you arrived at RIT. In fact, you used photography and video and even installation to sort of address your new sort of American reality. And you did this body of work called My Dear Americans, almost speaking directly about your experience here. Is that something you knew you wanted to explore immediately as a grad student?
I kind of wanted my work to mean something about social issues. When I get to RIT 2017, almost 1 year after the 2016 election, I feel like my role as an immigrant in living in the United States at that time had obviously a lot of impact, and my experience in the United States had changed over the years because I moved here in 2011. I feel like I've been experienced from a time in the United States where I felt welcome, and then where I didn't feel as welcome,
Yeah, so you were really using this work to confront this, but you eventually started focusing on images and ideas around guns and the way American culture deals with gun violence and gun safety. And I'm thinking about this installation you did called Schools Board. It looks like something you'd see outside an elementary school classroom, but as you get closer, the images and text really have this kind of biting sarcasm. They're actually uncomfortable and even confrontational. And so I'm curious what made your work turn toward the subject of gun violence.
If I had to pick one thing that worried me about my experience as a mother and as an immigrant in the United States, if I had to start for one thing, it had to be that. It had to be gun violence. It's an issue that is close to my heart, but it's also an issue that is difficult to talk about. And the school board, I was thinking about propaganda, kind of like propagandistic, because I thought, the work that I'm trying to make is about trying to convince people of my point of view. And with that, it comes the use of text, like the use of words, the use of signs, the use of symbols, and how propaganda works. You find it in the ways that you are least expected to find them, because that's when it's more effective. We still allow guns to be part of the society. What we are doing with children, like putting them at risk, So that's how the school boards was born.
It's been a while since you've made that work, but you've been working on this other series recently called Bad Fortune. where you find images of American political figures and then pair them with these found messages from fortune cookies. How did this series come about?
Honestly, 2020. Being at home all the time, you're on your devices all the time, and you are getting all these images, from everything that's happening. And but the more and more that I consume those images, I realize that those images, these public figures, the way they pose, the things they said, the things they did, change the luck of everyone else in this country and maybe in the world. I've been collecting those fortune cookies for years, like mm, since I moved to the United States. Actually, each fortune cookie strip is just this very vague, random luck that you get. You take a random image and a random text and put them together, boom, there's meaning. This is actually speaking about not only about like things that are happening and how I feel about them, but also about chance and luck. Like fortune tellers. If they tell you something, you might think, oh, my luck is gonna change or whatever. But 2020 was pretty much the year in which no one knew what was gonna happen, and I feel we still don't know what's gonna happen with anything. And I feel I wanted to talk about that uncertainty, that chance, but also who is shaping our luck, who is shaping, our lives.
Also, though, the fortune cookie is this strange cultural element. I mean, you typically get a fortune cookie when you go to a Chinese restaurant, but they really aren't part of Chinese culture. And it points to this Americanized version of another culture, which adds this extra layer to the images, right?
Right, because if you go to China, there are no fortune cookies. They don't know about fortune cookies because it's not a Chinese experience. The project really started when Donald Trump was holding the coronavirus charts and talking about the Chinese virus. And I'm like, what China virus? It's not a China virus. It's just like it's not a Chinese fortune cookie.
Even the photograph of Ivanka holding the Goya Can, which was this momentary piece of news, but it has yet another cultural layer that points to this relationship between America and Mexico,
Right.
both in a commercial sense, but also a cultural sense.
The way that I see Ivanka holding the Goya is very different from how someone that is not Hispanic is gonna see that picture. That talks about me, like how I feel about that photograph. And it's probably something that someone who's not Hispanic is not gonna think, but then seeing that text and seeing that image might make them question like what I'm trying to say, like, and why I'm trying to say that.
And one of these was recently part of a project called Ministry of Truth, which of course is this reference to George Orwell's novel 1984. But this project was a curated selection of images that appeared on billboards across the New York City area. And I can't think of a more appropriate place for this work from Bad Fortune to appear. So congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm very honored to participate in the exhibition. It felt really good just because, everything that's happening and feeling powerless to have that image on a billboard. It was like, I got one. Like one, I got one bottle, like one.
It's also great to see that something you were sort of tinkering with on your desk, these small experimental collages, all of a sudden becomes large scale and has this huge potential of impact where thousands of people can see it.
Right. Part of being an artist for me is also find ways to make it work. Like even if I'm have space in the gallery, I'm gonna have to make it work in the gallery. If I have to work at home because we're in lockdown from the pandemic, I'm gonna have to make it work here, and I'm gonna try to do whatever with the resources that I have. It also makes sense for me for these works to take the form of the big scale outdoor public installations, because many people, like from different backgrounds, looking at one thing at a particular time, having different reactions. It also talks about chance. I learned from that. I learned from the reaction of people.
So at this point, you've had your work published and shown, and you're kind of in the trenches of being an emerging artist. So what's your perspective now and for the future of being an artist?
Being an artist is a blessing, but it's also a burden, because we have a social responsibility and an ethical responsibility. I believe in the power of art to change ideologies. I believe in the power of art to make people care. But for me, I feel like it's a lot about making people join me. I want people to join me in my activist efforts. I want people to have the opportunity to interact with my pieces so they experience, and from that experience, they learn.
And with that, would you have any advice for those just starting out in their study or practice of art and photography?
I don't know. There's something that I wrote actually. So my advice for my fellow Aries: keep working, no matter how difficult it is or how many times your work has been rejected. There will be many, many times when you'll want to stop and when you'll think art making is pointless. But art is never pointless. Think about this. If you don't make your work, no one else will, because only you have the complete understanding of your experience and no one else has been in your shoes. Talk to the people you agree with, but also with those you disagree. It will help you to stay humble and to open your mind to possibilities. Be patient with your fellow artists. Everyone is struggling, even those who seem to have it all figured out. Call me when you're low and when you're up and when you're lost. Stay lost for a while and then find yourself again. Try not to stay lost for long, though. Your audience needs you. Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. You can do this. You are an artist. You are a relentless creature. You'll figure it out. Just don't give up.
Wow. I think we all need to hear that. I don't know what else to say, Ileana, except thank you for spending some time with us today on the short sesh. I have no doubt that your work will continue to proliferate out there, and can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. I'm very happy to talk to you. Thank you very much.